Hello, and welcome back to the Summer Series 2023 in association with H&H, the award-winning, amazing H&H. For those that don't know me, I'm the founder of Inspiring Workplaces Group, Matthew Manners, or Matt Manners. And whilst I do like trucker caps and merchandise, I've shaved my head for charity. So I felt this was a slightly better look for me and for you to look at over the next 3 weeks. So that's the reason for the cap. Back to the summer series and why we're here. We're now in our 4th year, which is amazing and frightening all at the same time. Having been created during the first lockdown of COVID in 2020, we couldn't get to you, so we took it all online. And so speaking of COVID, my wife has actually just this minute or this hour tested positive for it. So apologies if I sound a bit husky or maybe even develop a cough throughout the next 3 weeks. Over the next 3 weeks, we'll be bringing you varied and inspiring content from storytellers on both sides of the Atlantic. Content that we hope sparks creativity, curiosity, and change. If you can't be with us live, every session will also be made on demand. All of this content is free for you, our community, and that's only possible due to the amazing partners we have, like H&H. And you can see all the other partners that we have this year on our webpage and also rolling across the bottom of the screen right now. It really is impossible to do what we do without them, and thank you to all of them. So to our first session, and storyteller, Clare Mohan Lord, an internal comms expert from H&H. Before joining there, Clare spent time working her way up with the civil service, and for those in America, that's the government, the Ministry of Defence to be exact. Clare's a self-confessed data nerd, and digging into insight and measurement side of any good comms strategy has turned out to be an unexpected professional passion of hers. And she's always up for a chat about the powerful impact that a good comms strategy can have on a workplace culture, which we strongly agree with. And today, importantly, she's actually helping us get the summer series started, and we'll be discussing employee value propositions. So without further ado, welcome, Clare.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to exit stage left now and leave you to it. So I'll see you in about 20 to 25 minutes. Over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, thanks for the introduction. I'm really excited to be speaking to you listeners or viewers today about employee value propositions, or EVPs, and giving you the inside scoop on how to win and keep the hearts, minds, and talent of your people. So, in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to rattle through some current workplace mobility trends, looking under the rug to explore what's really happening in the world of talent mobility, despite the headlines. Then we'll explore what an EVP is and why we, as internal comms or employee engagement professionals, should think of ourselves as the estate agents of the employee engagement world. Finally, I'll give some tips on how to get your EVP in absolute tip-top shape and then elevate it to the next level. And we'll finish with a quick case study where we've put all these ideas into practice with one of our lovely clients at H&H. So, without further ado, we've all heard of the Great Resignation, but what did that actually mean in numbers? Over the course of 2021, more than 47 million people quit their jobs, just under a quarter of the total US workforce, according to the Bureau of Labour Statistics. And in 2022, roughly 38 million more people quit. In the UK, numbers haven't been quite as extreme as that, but the trend has continued in parallel. In fact, it's only in recent weeks that academics and workforce commentators have declared that the Great Resignation is truly over, with the levels of quitting now at pre-COVID levels. And we're moving into a new phase that some have called the Great Stay. Although that said, I did see a headline from the Times this morning suggesting that actually some of those kind of itchy feet are still there, and people, perhaps up to even sort of nearly a quarter of people, are still considering whether they'd like to move in the next year. So maybe we've spoken too soon when we're thinking about the end of the Great Resignation. But it's no surprise that after so much change and reshuffling and reorganizing of priorities, that the trends might start to stabilize. But global economics are also making an impact too. With the cost of living crisis and mass layoffs at large companies, people desperately want stability and security. And herein lies the problem. For those that wanted to quit or change jobs a couple of years ago, but didn't or couldn't at the time, they might now be feeling stuck. So there's a percentage of disengaged workers out there sticking with jobs because they have to, not because they want to. According to a new Gallup poll released last Tuesday, 59% of workers are quiet quitting, meaning that they're staying but are disengaged with their jobs, so just doing the bare minimum to get by. and 18% are loud quitting, or actively disengaged, but still sticking with the same job. Which brings me on to my next question. What do we, as employee engagement professionals, have in common with estate agents, or real estate agents if you're in the US? Let's look at the analogy of the housing market to help us unpick this a little bit more. There are all sorts of reasons why people might choose to move house. The current place they live is dangerous or no longer fit to live. Or they just really like the look of those lovely new builds down the road. Alternatively, their current house might be lovely, but it just isn't right for them anymore. They've outgrown it or need something a bit different. Or alternatively, they want to move because they don't want to live in any house anymore. They're embracing van life or moving into a canal boat. Organizations are like houses. There are lots of reasons why people fall in love with and choose to join a company, and just as many reasons why they decide to move on eventually. It's all about personal fit. And that's where an EVP comes in. It helps you, as an employer, tell potential new talent all the great things your organization has to offer them, just like an estate agent selling a house. But unlike an estate agent, an EVP can also help you to reconnect disengaged employees with the things they might truly value about your company, so they decide not to move eventually. So we're going to stick with the house analogy a bit longer and really milk it for all it's worth. Looking into those categories that cause people to move on from a role, you can divide them into issues with the internal versus the external environment. Is the current house the problem, or is it that they're seeing potential opportunities elsewhere? You can also see that sometimes the factors that cause people to move are more to do with issues inside the house or the organization, but sometimes it's more about what's going on for them personally or outside the house. Sometimes people find that life inside their organization is unpleasant or even harmful to their well-being. Otherwise, sometimes it's simply that their current organization no longer meets their needs and they have no further room to develop, so they start looking elsewhere. At other times, it's the case that other organizations sound like they would be a better fit. So even if your job is okay, the grass next door starts to look mighty green. And that's where an EVP comes in. All of these things, highlighted in green, are topics where revamping your EVP can help you. There are all sorts of things you can do in sorting out your EVP that will help make you an attractive employer of choice for new talent, and help your existing talented people feel excited and energized about staying with you for the long term. You can tackle the things that make the house no longer fit to live, and should probably do so urgently. And you can also improve the ways your organization meets your employees' needs. And you can talk to your people and remind them of why working for you is better than the alternative options out there, re-energizing all the positives about your employee experience. Of course, where an EVP can't help is if someone's in that phase of life where they don't want to live in a house or stay in the job market anymore. If they're looking at yurts in Devon or alpaca farms in Portugal, and they're planning to quit to live the good life, then no amount of sort of high-quality EVP comms will make them stay. So, this brings me on to the next important question. What is an EVP anyway? An EVP, or Employee Value Proposition, in simplest of terms, is a compelling story that outlines what you can offer current and potential employees as their employer of choice. A well-crafted EVP statement can become the framework for a whole range of other communications that allow you to showcase what makes you stand out from the crowd as an employer, and what makes life with you really exciting. In exchange for your people's talent and hard work, your EVP allows you to tell them what they would receive in terms of benefits, development, culture, rewards, values, and a whole load of other lovely stuff. Basically, it's why they should want to work for you and no one else. An EVP has several key components. Rewards and benefits, which are the more tangible positives about working for you. This includes things like salary, benefits, and perks. So flexible working, for example, is one of the biggest needs for many employees at the moment. But it's also about some less concrete things, whether that's opportunities for career progression, clear development opportunities, and even high-quality line management. Then we come on to culture, which is the less tangible but equally important stuff. So what's it actually like working for you? Do people feel like they're part of a good team? Do you have shared beliefs, values, and behaviours? And do you walk the walk when it comes to putting that into practice, or is it more of an aspiration? Culture is also about things like the camaraderie between your people and about the common ground that makes working together great. And finally, there's the bigger picture, purpose and vision. This is about the goals and dreams you're working towards as a company. Do you have an inspiring vision for your work? Do people feel energized by your company purpose? This third component is all about a sense that this is an organization that knows where it's going, that's got a firm place in the world, and is doing something that resonates with the people who choose to work there. So these three areas taken together are what can make or break a positive employee experience. And that's what an EVP is all about. What do I get as an employee for giving my time and talent to your company? So what's the benefit of an EVP for you? Well, research by Gartner suggests that a strong employee value proposition can lower your turnover by 69% and potentially increase engagement, especially for recent hires, by as much as 30%. So, how do we build organizations that attract and retain talent, and how do we spring clean our EVP? We're going to stick with that house analogy, because I'm about to give you the guided estate agent tour of the perfect EVP. This gorgeous graphic shows how the house and its rooms reflect the employee experience, all of the components that you should be considering when defining your EVP. And we've got a link to share it later on the H&H website. We've created a sort of infographic that includes a lot more detail on these different elements. But it starts in the center with this blue door and the stairs going up to the hallway. The front door in the entrance hallway is what people will see first. It's the first point of entry and should set the scene for the rest of your house. It's about the central heart of the home. This is your purpose and vision. Being clear about why you exist, what you want to achieve, and what sets you apart. This should then draw people in to want to see and explore more. And we can see many powerful examples of purposes that set organizations apart and attract people to their doors, such as Nike, Apple, or even Airbnb. Next, in pink, is the lounge. This is all about culture. It's where we think about the interactions and bonding between people, the vibe and atmosphere of the house, and the expectations we set about what behavior we encourage, usually defined by our shared beliefs and values. So this is where we define the mood. Next, on to the kitchen in grey, often the heart of the home, where we go to get nourishment and refreshment. So this relates to reward and recognition, the compensation and benefits we get back in return for what we put in. It's not just the tangible stuff, it's also the softer stuff like recognition, being celebrated for the things you achieve, and feeling like you are valued and appreciated. Next, we head up to the bedroom and the bathroom. This is all about well-being, the ability to refresh and recuperate, where you can be both invigorated and energized or switch off, rest and relax. Well-being isn't just around mental health, it's also about taking care of your people's physical health, their work-life balance, and styles and ways of working. So, for example, hybrid or remote working, flexible hours, and so on. All the things that allow someone to feel their best and brightest both at work and outside of it. And at the top of the house, we have the roof space, or the loft. This relates to personal development and career progression. Basically, how much room is there here to grow and expand? This is about training and development, growth planning, and future potential. All very important for a long-term view. Finally, outside is the garden, which connects you to issues and opportunities outside of your organization and gives you a place in both your local and sort of global community. So this is about things like sustainability, so how you contribute and give consideration to the wider world, your communities and local areas. And it's also things like corporate social responsibility too. How do you support society, perhaps through charitable activities, volunteering, and so on? If you're communicating a sort of coherent central story about all these different elements, you're building a really rich picture of what life as an employee at your organization really means. I've added in a couple of suggestions and pieces of inspiration for some innovative things other organizations are doing to add to their EVPs, whether that's paying 100% of tuition costs or subsidized cleaning services and adding well-being bonuses to support their hardworking people. One of the most interesting parts of this graphic for me is the note about stay interviews here in the left corner. This is about taking time to understand why people have stuck it out with you, and also crucially what they need from you to maintain their commitment as your employee. This is a great way to sense check your EVP and make sure you're really looking after your team. It's worth thinking about the fact, though, that each of these components, culture, purpose and vision, personal development, and so on, will have differing levels of importance for each individual in your company. Someone interested in pursuing higher education, for example, will be much more interested in that potential tuition support than someone who's got all the academic qualifications they currently want. That person might be more interested in your overall well-being approach or in working for a company with whom they have a close value alignment. Which brings me on to my next point. And the daring question, is the traditional EVP enough? Because the concept of the EVP is at an important stage of evolution right now. It's time for us to make things more complicated and to think more deeply about what this might mean for us as employee experience professionals. So let's pause for a second and take a look at the evolution of the EVP. In the 90s, the employee experience was linked intrinsically to productivity. What would be the elements that would benefit an employee in order to maximize their productivity? So this potentially took the form of technology upgrades or incentivizing high performance. And in fact, the phrase employee value proposition wasn't really used until the early noughties. So when we refer to EVP 1.0, the perks that were being given weren't really about offering the employee something. It was about how to make the business more money. The employee wasn't at the center of the decisions, and they were viewed mainly as parts of a bigger machine. And then, as we moved into the early noughties and even up till the last couple of years, with the growth of startup culture, there was a refocus on making companies attractive and engaging for employees. This included, for example, health and well-being related perks or upgrades to the office space, including whimsical things that emphasized workplaces as a space for connection and fun as well as work to build those company cultures. The emphasis was on experience and culture, and some of those slightly more holistic benefits. And the next evolution, which is kind of where we are now, is about organizations viewing employees as humans and specifically as individuals, and using the framework of the EVP to make their life experience better, not just their time at work, especially given the major shift that we've seen in recent years to hybrid and remote working. And this means, given the focus on individuals here, that there needs to be an element of personalization, which is, of course, easier said than done. Recent research we've undertaken at H&H on culture underpins this thinking. One of the primary findings that our research on organizational culture supported was the idea that employees are the ones who are now shaping workplace cultures, which means the culture element isn't just contained as part of one house and therefore controlled top down by the business or organization, but actually it morphs according to who comes and goes in the house and their own priorities. Diversity has been pivotal in empowering employees to champion individualism rather than just adopt a follow-the-herd mentality. Employees now expect more from their employers, both in terms of benefits and rewards, but also those intangible things like culture and purpose. This has had a knock-on impact for how we think about EVPs. After all, as I said earlier, what works well for some employees won't resonate for others, whether that's about balancing your hybrid work model so it works equally well for extroverts who love being in the office, and for introverts who do their best work at home and alone. Some people, for example, are really motivated by a company that sings loud and proud about its commitment to corporate social responsibility, while for other people, they just want to know that they've got a good team around them and they're getting on with the day job. So your EVP needs to speak to these different people in different ways so that it brings out the stuff that matters to them. So perhaps, instead of thinking of ourselves as estate agents, walking employees around one lovely pre-built house, we need to think of the EVP as being more like a showroom at a new housing development, where you invite prospective and current employees to focus on the features that appeal most to them, knowing that everyone will require something a little bit different from their neighbour. So the 2023 version of the EVP is definitely not one size fits all, which is why we've coined the term cheekily, the MEVP. No matter what information is being shared, people respond best to the personal touch. It feels relevant and reassuring, tailored to their needs. And that in turn drives engagement and motivation. And this can work brilliantly for an EVP. So to develop a truly flexible EVP, the first step is to ask your employees what they want. Check in with them around all the elements of your EVP. Focus groups and employee listening tools will help you understand the full range of needs and requirements. And then you can look at where you can offer choice around benefits and working environments where possible, or some of those other more complex needs. For example, at H&H, in recognition of everyone's different personal lives, we've incorporated a whole range of flexi work options. Working remotely or from the office, during core hours or opting into the 9-day fortnight we're currently trialling, are all options that allow us to choose what we want from work and to have the most fulfilling balance between our personal and work lives. For larger organizations, where truly customizable approaches are difficult because of the scale, Developing employee value proposition personas for critical segments of your audience will help you diversify what should go in your EVP in the first place, where choice and flexibility may be more limited. This audience segmentation allows you to craft versions of your EVP that speak to different groups and resonate best for them. You can also then use these personas to take a tailored approach to your comms, focusing on different messaging even around areas of your EVP, like organizational identity and purpose, that are more rigid. Making sure you've got this right, even if it means speaking about your purpose and vision in different ways to different audience groups, will help you both attract and retain top talent, drawn in by messages that resonate particularly well with them. I promised you a quick case study. We recently worked with a Yorkshire-based holiday home company who came to us with the challenge that the company was facing high attrition levels and a shortage of the skills it needed to deliver its plans for rapid growth. We knew they needed an EVP, so we helped them create it through a collaborative co-creation process of workshops and employee engagement to ensure the end result felt personal and authentic to the workforce. This approach is underpinned by science. Ownership is a feeling that something is ours to protect, enjoy, and feel proud of. Nurturing this basic human desire sparks determination, inspires responsibility, and drives people to invest their time and energy in achieving successful outcomes that they can share, so involving the employees helped to spark that engagement. We carried out an employee listening exercise to gather rich insights about the full picture of needs across the organisation. Using insight and personal stories, we then crafted the wider EVP story, showing how our client's innovation and culture set it apart from other companies in its sector, and how choosing to work there was a rewarding career decision. We supported the holiday home business in embedding its EVP in everything it does, from communications and the working environment to recruitment campaigns and employee reward. The campaign laid the foundations for a new approach, inspiring personal connection and responsibility, and putting everyone on a shared pathway to success. The employee input was invaluable when creating the backbone of the EVP, and when defining the areas where the business would focus its efforts and investment to create a company that drew and kept hold of the best and most loyal workers. And as you can see, taking the listening first approach generated a lot of buzz from our clients' employees, who relished the opportunity to share their views and stories. In fact, we saw the largest participation of workers to date in any similar kind of exercise. So, I hope I've taken you on a very quick estate agent's tour of the EVP and shown you something that you didn't know. But as you can see, I think the concept of the EVP is here to stay, and it's evolving into a really interesting form right now. So I hope you found this useful, and feel free to reach out to H&H if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Claire, and loving you coining the term MEVP. That's definitely one that sticks in the mind now. So thank you so much for taking us through that. Very, very useful to lots of people, and helping us start the summer series with 3 more weeks to go. So we'll say thank you and let you go and crack on with your work and your day. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Claire. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. And thank you to you for joining us today. We have 3 more storytellers this week. Next 2 are on the other side of the Atlantic. I think actually the West Coast from LinkedIn, and then Josh and Lindsay on Wednesday. So thank you very much for coming back and joining us for the summer series in association with H&H, and we will be back again tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.